Om. Om. Sahana vavatu, sahnau bhunaktu, sahviryam karavavahai, tejasvinavadhitamastu, ma vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Sadashiva Samarambham Shankaracharya Madhyamam Asmadacharya Paryantam Vande Guru Paramparam. Vasudevendra Yogindram Natva Jnanapradam Gurum Mumukshunam Hitarthaya Tattva Bodho Abhidhiyate. Very good. So, is this time? I saw some discussion on the group. You want 6 to 7? Is that right?
Yeah, 6 to 7 would be good, like if you are available.
6 to 7 is the hard one, right? That's prime time. My family would be like, okay, then you guys, you go and live there.
Which time suits you maybe on the weekends?
Yeah, so usually what ends up happening is we'll go somewhere out for dinner or do something on Saturday. So generally 5 to, nothing usually starts until 6 p.m. 6:30. 6 to 7 comes too close. So 5 to 6 is doable, 4:30 to 5:30 is doable, 4 to 5 is doable. I'll ask them. I think they will say 6 to 7 is not a good time to do.
Yeah, we can go ahead with 5 to 6, I think.
I'll find out until I'll confirm. But today, 5 to 6 was okay. I took a red eye back from Oregon, and I was supposed to reach home at 11 a.m. So I told Vidit that we'll be about 5-10 minutes late. And then my flight reached Detroit. And at Detroit, I found out that it was going to be an hour late. And then by the time I reached home, it was like 1 o'clock, 1:30 or so. And it was truly a red eye because I came home, I took a couple of hour nap, and now I have redness. I do. It's amazing. But what can we say? That's the story of the mumukshu, right? He has to do it. And so I'm drinking tea while I just woke up from that nap. But what can we do? That's the story of the mumukshu. Thank you. Let's see, we can get started. We had a good discussion last time. I suspect that we are going to have an even better discussion today because of the topic that we are about to get into. But let's take a moment to look at this verse again. We are beginning the study of the Tattva Bodh. So I guess last time let's see here. Yeah, last time we talked about some questions. What is the subject matter? We spent some time with what is Vedanta. Then we talked a little bit about, we talked about all of this, right? Yeah, we talked about Shruti, Smriti, Purana. We talked about Prakarna Granthas, which brought us to the topic of Tattva Bodha. Oh, then this was a question that we left hanging. Who created Advaita Vedanta? And what was the answer that I gave last time? Who created Advaita Vedanta? I said, first of all,
like all answers, it is not this.
It is not this, yeah. I would say who created Advaita Vedanta. Like, oh, what a great answer, Shivram. By the way, I'm sorry, it just sunk in. I'm still slow this morning. Oh, that's a great answer. Neti. Who created Advaita Vedanta? It's a difficult and very important question because it's one that we grapple with. No matter what you study, no matter which grantha you study, no matter what, even if you do like a little bit of study, the first question that will come up is this: are you a follower of Shankaracharya or not? Or are you a follower of, Dvaita or Advaita Vedanta? I think people like to have the labels associated with them. So what was the explanation I gave? Well, first of all, no, Shankaracharya did not create Advaita Vedanta. It may have become referred to it as after him, it was referred to more commonly as Advaita Vedanta, but he is not the creator of Advaita. The Vedanta is Vedanta. And what is Advaita?
Sorry
Yes.
to interrupt you. Before
Let me give me 1 second.
Okay.
Nobody has to apologize for interrupting me. You can just ask the question and we'll cover it. It's supposed to be a discussion, so it's not a monologue. It's a dialogue between. Go ahead.
Yeah, I was saying before going to who created, I don't know, maybe you told it about this in last class. I don't know the difference between Vedanta, Advaita Vedanta, and Dvaita Vedanta, or there are more. I just know of these three.
If I could explain to you the difference between the two,
Three, I think, right?
then we would be done with this subject matter altogether.
Oh.
But there are names. If I could explain the difference to you and you said, I got it, these are the differences, I appreciate what them are, then we are at a different level. We've completed Tattva to a certain extent.
Okay.
But in terms of description, that's not to avoid the answer. I'll give the answer. There is, of course, Advaita Vedanta, and then there is Dvaita. Then there is Vishishta Advaita.
Sankhya.
Sankhya is perhaps not Vedanta, but is definitely a school of thought in Hinduism. Yeah, Sankhya, why not? And there is some people like to call it Bhakti Vedanta, which is pretty similar to Vishishta Advaita. It's not necessarily different from those two. I guess you could say the best way.
The same Sankhya that we have in Gita chapter 2, Sankhya Yoga.
Not necessarily. Sankhya Yoga, the way Gita talks about it, Gita talks about everything. It talks about proper Vedanta in that instant. It's just the chapter is called. So in Gita, all the chapters are referred to as yogas.
Yeah.
So chapter 2 is, so it's not Sankhya Yoga, but it's the chapter about Sankhya. And in that case, Sankhya is referring to really Advaita in that case.
Mm-hmm.
But I'll provide an explanation so you can help appreciate the difference. Perhaps I gave this example last time also. Maybe I'm repeating it. But it's the example of the ocean, the wave, and the water. Did I give this example last time? Okay. So, in a way, Advaita says there is water. The wave and ocean are mithya. Dvaita says ocean is real, wave is real, water is real. Vishishta Advaita says wave has little water in it, ocean has lots of water in it. Sankhya says there are three, ocean, wave, and water, and doesn't necessarily prescribe a relationship between the three, but describes the attributes of the three. Now you tell me, is there a difference between all of them? Yes and no.
Is Sankhya like going to the explaining each of them individually?
Just describes the attributes.
So
The attributes.
I think that ocean, wave, water, they all have the same component, that is H2O water. But I think like I don't know if I'm right or not, but I think Vishisht Advaita or Sankhya, I think they are different in the way they describe it, I would say. I think Sankhya, from what you said, it looks like they're talking about the form
Definitions.
definitions. Yeah.
But now I want you to add one more thing to this analogy. Imagine that you are in the ocean, deep, when you are talking about this. So when you conceive in your mind ocean, wave, and water, along with that, you conceive space and clouds and sun above the ocean. You do. That's the way it goes. It may be an endless ocean, but it's endless in one direction or two, but not in the third. But I want you to imagine this situation, but imagine that you are in the ocean deep inside, and you're talking about the ocean, the wave, and the water. Now I want you to imagine, what is the difference between the three? And you will say, academic. Academic means it's something that we can talk about, but it is of no consequence. Perhaps we will talk about what this means a little bit more as we go forward, because it's not just academic. There is a fundamental difference between them. And the fundamental difference will actually get revealed in our next topic of discussion, which will emerge right away, which is what is meant by moksha. And the meaning of moksha will be very different, or will be very central to what we are going to discover. Tattva Bodha is going to be all about moksha. So we will be very clear on what moksha is going to be. We'll have to discuss that. We'll have to arrive at a conclusion together on what exactly do we mean by the word moksha. That is our topic of the class today. What do we mean by moksha? So I'll start it, and then we'll come back to it. How many times have you heard the word or used it yourself, moksha? But what do you mean by it is the question. So let's go back to the first verse itself, which says, Vasudevendra Yogindram Nattva Jnana Pradam Gurum Mumukshunam Hitarthaya Tattva Bodho Abhidiyate. So the question becomes, why are we spending so much time talking about the word moksha? Because when you look at this, go into presentation mode so I can use the pen. So there is some sandhi going on here. First one is here, Vasudevendra Yogindram. This is a sandhi of two words. Here, Vasudevendra refers to Bhagavan Sri Krishna, and it also refers to Shankaracharya's teacher. But if you want to think of it as a prayer to Vasudev, it is a prayer to Vasudev. If you want to think about that, the teacher in this case, the writer of the Granth, is giving his respects to his own personal teacher, you can interpret it like that as well. That's one of the things that is interesting about these texts, is that sometimes they can find the same word to mean two things, and they'll cover them both. So here, Vasudevendra and Yogindram. So the word Yogindram talks about Indra is generally used to represent the king. In traditional Sanskrit literature, Indra is generally used to represent the king. So Yogindram is somebody who is he is the king of the yogis. Now, obviously, when you attribute someone to be the king of the yogis, to me, it would mean you're talking about Bhagavan Sri Krishna. Who else would take on the attribute of being the Indra of the yogis? So Vasudevendra Yogindram. But the thing is, if you understand Vedanta, by the time you get to the end of the discussion of Tattva Bodha, you will understand that your teacher, or any human being for that matter, who has any excellence of any kind, can be understood to be an avatar of that same Vasudeva, of that same Ishvara. So that Yogindram, even if there is a little bit of Yogindram in your teacher, you can attribute it to that same Bhagavan. So in a way, the author of this text is quite knowledgeable They are recognizing their teacher, and they're recognizing the blessings of Ishvara coming through that teacher as well, and recognizing that the blessings are coming from Vasudevendra Yogindra. And the teacher itself, himself or herself, is also just instrumental to the blessings of Bhagavan himself. And that's why this is a prayer. But if it was dedicated only to his teacher, it wouldn't become a prayer. This is a prayer because through his teacher, he is seeing the light of Ishvara coming through, which is Vasudevendra Yogindra. Natva Jnana Pradam Gurum. So now the prayer says, I am offering my prayers, if you will, to that Guru who gives me or blesses me with knowledge. Very picky about it. He's saying, I'm going to Jnana Pradam Gurum, to that teacher who blesses me with knowledge. And so that question becomes, okay, what kind of knowledge are we talking about? What do we mean when we say the word Jnana? And we talked about Vedant is the Anta of the Veda. It is referred to as the Gyan Kanda portion of the Vedas, the Upanishads of the Vedas. So it is referring to a specific Gyan. It is referring to the Gyan of Atma or Tattva. Tattva is reality. Tat is that. Tattva is the essence of that. So the one who gives me the knowledge, Bodh, of Tattva or the knowledge of Atma is the Jnana Pradam Guru. So the first line of this prayer recognizes so many things. It recognizes that there is a Guru Shishya Parampara. Recognizes that in spite of a Guru Shishya Parampara, it is truly the light of Ishvara that is shining through. Jnana here is referring to that knowledge of reality. And he's going to talk about it in just a moment also. He's going to describe literally what that Jnana is. In the next verse, he's going to say, Tattva Bodho, the knowledge of reality, the essence of that. Tattva Bodha is the essence of reality, that which cannot be denied in any circumstances, that will always be present. The reality of everything is referred to as Tattva Bodha. The reality of everything, including myself, is Tattva. The reality of myself, the Jeev, the reality of the Jagat, the reality of Ishvara. That is Tattva. That Tattva cannot be denied in any circumstances ever. That Tattva Bodho is the Jnana that is being talked about. And that Jnana Pradam Gurum, Vasudevendra Yoga. First of all, I'm going to recognize the parampara, the tradition of this knowledge as it comes from various teachers come down, but recognizing that every teacher is instrumental, every student is instrumental. The original source of this knowledge remains that Vasudevendra. Now Vasudev's name, his name is very interesting. His name is Vasudev. What does Vasudev mean? It means the son of Vasudev. Right? That's the way naming works. So if you're in Sanskrit, if your father's name is Vasudev, you become a Vasudev. So in this case, because Bhagavan Shri Krishna has to come and be named Vasudev, first his father has to come and has to be named Vasudev. So this was being set up for a while, so that when he would come, he would be referred to as Vasudev. But what does Vasudev really mean? Does it just mean the son of Vasudev? No, it means Dev, Vasu. The one that shines within everyone. Vasu lives and shines through all living beings. That is Vasudeva. Vasanat Vasudevasya Vasetam Bhuvanatrayam Sarva Bhuta Nivasosi Vasudeva Namostate. That is the shloka from one of the Vishnu Sahasranamas. Towards the end, it appears when Parvati ji asks Shankar Bhagwan as to what is the one shloka by saying which everything as though becomes known. Before Shankar Bhagwan can speak, the writer of the, where does Vishnu Sahasranam appear? It appears in the Mahabharata. It's also Smriti, also written by Vedavyasa. So Vedavyasa speaks first, he says. Let me answer the question. And then, of course, Shankar Bhagwan answers the question. He says, Ram, Ravi Rame Manorame. But before that, he answers Vasudeva said. So who is Vasudev? In his name, he reveals that he is the shining light in all living beings. That is the meaning of the word Vasudeva. Now, of course, incidentally, he made sure that he would get that name Vasudeva when he was Ishvara. So the circumstances conspired so that the name by which he became famous was Vasudeva. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. I bow down to the one that shines within all. So Vasudevendra Yogindram Natva Jnanapradam Gurum. So this is properly a prayer attributed to the one that shines through all, the one who can be understood as the king of the yogis, the one who gives us the knowledge. How? Through the Gita. The one who gives us the knowledge, and later on, as Tattva Bodha completes, the true meaning of the word Jnanam will be revealed, which will be, how do you know anything? The question is, what is Jnana? Do you have Jnana right now? Yes, of course, we're studying Tattva Bodha and we're going to gain Jnana, of course. But do you have Jnana right now? And the answer is, what do you mean? Of course I have Jnana right now. I am awake. I am conscious. I know that I exist. I know that I am. My question to you is, how do you know you are? How do you know you are? Did you need a sensor? Did you need a proof of why you are or whether you are or not? The answer is no, it's obvious to me that I am. That can never be taken away from you. That Gyan, that you exist, did not need to be revealed to you. It was always revealed. And so if you take knowledge down to its most fundamental level, knowledge will be revealed to be the awareness of existence itself. And that awareness of existence itself is nothing but Vasudeva, the one who shines within all. So in the prayer, he's also revealing the Tattva Bodha, just like that, which is very common in our tradition. We like to, I guess we like to do the fractals, where every single particle contains the knowledge of the full as well. So the prayer itself contains the answers that we are looking for. So Vasudevendra Yogindram Natva Jnana Pradam Gurum Mumukshu Nam Hitarthaya Tattva Bodho Abhidhiyate. Abhidhiyate is I'm going to present it. Not only dhiyate, abhidhiyate. Now sometimes we will add the dhi is to understand, to focus on something would be dhi. Abhidhiyate is I'm really going to reveal it or I'm going to study it. Now sometimes they will add these prefixes to the verbs in order to meet the meter of the poetry. It's very important for when some things need to follow a particular meter. So for example, this is Anushtup Chanda. So in order for it to meet the Chanda, so that it can be chanted and recited, sometimes they will decorate, add an extra syllable to decorate it. And at the same time, it is saying it's not just dhiyate, it is abhidhiyate. I'm going to explain it with detail. Hitarthaya, for the benefit. This is very important. Any study should have a purpose. If it doesn't have a purpose, it's of no use. The study should have a purpose. And what better purpose can things have than to be for the benefit of humanity, the benefit of the reader? Why would you read a book? It is for your benefit. Would you read a book that is of no use to you? Even a book of jokes. You'll read it because it makes you laugh. It's of benefit to you. And otherwise, why would anybody read anything? People would not read anything. So it becomes hitarthaya. This is very important, that while all of these prayers are being done and these lofty ideals and principles and philosophies are being talked about, the focus remains on hitarthaya. It has to be to the benefit. Some good should come off of it to the reader. Who is the reader here? And that is the subject matter. It says that the reader is mumukshuna. Ikshu, the one who is ikshu of moksha, becomes the mumukshu. Mumukshu is a very special individual. It's someone who is got a very strong desire for moksha. that person gets referred to as a mumukshu. So that is the prayer, and that is the first verse of the Tattva Bodha. Unpacked, we can probably spend a lot more time unpacking every word. We'll probably spend hours just making this a Vedanta text and studying all of it in just one verse. But we can move on to the next one because there is more to be said about this topic of mumukshu and what is being talked about here. So I'll come back to the question because that's what's going to be talked about here. So this is the first verse. Through this verse, we will also get set up with the method by which Tattva Bodha works. Tattva Bodha is a very unique text. I have enjoyed, really loved teaching it because you'll see in a moment how it works. It truly is a book of definitions and a question and answers. The first verse says, Sadhana chatushtaya sampanna adhikari nam moksha sadhana bhutam tattva viveka prakaram vakshyamaha. So we'll do the sandhi vichhed and look at it. So the first one says, Sadhana chatushtaya sampanna adhikari nam. So that's actually the phrase that is describing someone. It's describing a person. And how does it describe the person? It says that this person is sampanna. Now you may have come across the Sanskrit word sampanna. It means somebody who is wealthy, somebody who has something. Yeah, who's got a, your dhanadhanya sampanna, or you may have varieties of resources and so on. This person is sampanna. Sampanna of what? Sampanna with adhikaritvam. He has the preparation. Sadhana chatushtaya sampanna. He's an adhikari because he is sampanna with sadhana chatushtaya. And by he, I mean he and she both. In this case, I'm talking about just a student. The student who this is being revealed for is sadhana chatushtaya sampanna adhikari. It's a very nice way to describe it. A very simple way to describe it, you will say, what is this sadhana chatushtaya? So he says that sadhana chatushtaya, who is chatushta, is 4. Sadhana is 4 types of sadhana sampanna. They have in 4 types of preparation or practices. Sadhana is practice. Sadhana. So when you have a goal, that is called a sadhya. When you have a goal, when you are looking at something, that is called a sadhya. And approaching that goal is called sadhana. Sometimes it is also referred to as instruments, but really there is no sadhana without a sadhya. First, you have to have a goal. As soon as you have a goal, you start doing sadhana to accomplish that goal. So sadhana chatushtaya. So there are 4 types of sadhana sampanna. Adhikari. Adhikari is somebody. So now in Hindi and in colloquial languages, adhikari means somebody who has the right. But in Sanskrit, in traditional Sanskrit, and Bhagwan also talks about it, adhikaritvam is somebody who has the preparation for it. Are they the same? No, they are not the same. One would say that an adhikari is somebody who has the prerequisites done. Right? So all of you have been to college at one time or another, and you know that in order to take Math 201, you have to have the prereq of Math 101 done with C- or better. At least C- you need to have. Then you don't have to have A. That's also very important. You don't have to have A, you need to have C-. You need to have tried Math 101 to step into Math 2. If you have an A, that's good, you're very well prepared. But you need to have just taken it. That's adhikaritvam. You are prepared to step into Math 201. Without the adhikaritvam, you have a right to pay the fees and go into the classroom and try to study Math 201. You absolutely have the right to do that. Doesn't mean you have the preparation for it. So in this context, adhikaritvam is referring to preparation. And Bhagwan will talk about adhikaritvam quite a bit. In the first few verses of the Tattva Bodha, we're going to talk about adhikaritvam. We're going to talk about what this preparation is, what preparation is needed. So, sadhana chatushtaya sampanna adhikarina. Fourfold sadhanas. What are those fourfold sadhanas? Hasn't been revealed yet. If you notice carefully, it just says this adhikari is sampanna, they are rich, they are well equipped, is the correct word, not rich. Sampanna. They are well equipped with the fourfold sadhanas. What are those sadhanas? We don't know yet. For them, moksha sadhana bhutam. Sadhana bhutam is, it is going to become the instrument of moksha itself. So moksha sadhana bhutam, which is becomes the instrument of moksha for those adhikaris, tattva viveka prakaram vakshyama. Vakshyama means I'm going to tell you. Vakshyama. I'm going to speak or I'm going to explain. Vakshyama. It's a fancy word for, it's not just watch. So vakshyama. I'm going to explain. I'm going to present in detail with explanation. Tattva viveka prakaram. Prakaram is what? This is a prakarana grantha. So prakaram is the arguments, the discussion, the vad vivad associated with that. That prakaram I'm going to methodically talk about. Tattva viveka. So many words are coming up so fast right now. Sanskrit is flying left and right now. But it will slow down in just a moment. Tattva we talked about just a moment ago. What was tattva? The reality of the essence of everything. What is viveka? Yeah, my friend Vivek, Swami Vivekananda, his name is very special. He took great ananda in viveka. What is viveka? Viveka is the ability to discriminate between two things. What is what and what is not. It's very important. You all know how to do viveka. Viveka is the first thing you learn in science. How do you distinguish between two things? How do you discriminate between A and B? The ability to say that this is A definitively and this is not A definitively is viveka. But in Sanskrit, in the study of Vedanta, viveka is really viveka when it is applied to what is tattva and what is not tattva. What is real and what is not real. What is the essence of all things and what is not. What is satyam, truth, and what is mithya. I'm going to define mithya later. What is satyam and what is asatyam. The ability to discriminate between the two is viveka. Now, see, viveka can be used in many different contexts. You can say this is chai and not coffee. That is also viveka. Sure. If I make chai and coffee look exactly the same, I can get the color perfectly right. Then you'll have to take a sip and say, yeah, this is chai, not coffee. Tattva viveka prakaram vakshyamaha. I'm going to present with detail the ability to discriminate between tattva and what is the essence of reality. So I'm going to provide tattva viveka prakaram, the ability to investigate into the essence of the reality of things. And this ability, this viveka, this tattva viveka is going to become a sadhana bhutam. It is going to become a direct instrument for the achievement of moksha. For the adhikari who is sampanna with sadhana chatushtaya. That's what that verse is. If you look at this ancient traditional text, in the first verse, it made it clear what it wants to do. The objective of the text has been laid out with clarity at the very beginning. You know, I told you, mumukshu nam hit arthaya. These ancient texts, they don't dilly-dally too much. They don't, go around the point. They don't go around the circle telling you something. They'll tell you directly what they're trying to do. So in this case, this one has spelled out its objective very clearly. This is what I'm going to do. And this is to the benefit of the mumukshu. This keeps coming, this word moksha keeps coming. It doesn't go away, right? It was there in the previous word, mumukshu. It's present in this verse. It's like the center point, moksha sadhana bhutam. It is going to become the direct source or the direct instrument of moksha for this sadhana chatushtaya sampanna adhikari? So many questions in our mind, right? What is sadhana chatushtaya? What is viveka? What is tattva viveka? What is moksha? What is vakshama also? What does it mean? You're going to explain it to me. So I want to draw your attention for the next few minutes to how this text is laid out. The next verse says, sadhana chatushtaya kim? Sadhana chatushtaya kim? So this is a proper discussion between a student and a teacher. The teacher said, I'm going to do all of this. So the student says, what is this sadhana chatushtaya? So the teacher will explain it in a few verses. So he'll give some answer. You can see he gives some answer. Nitya nitya vastu viveka. The student says, nitya nitya vastu, what is that? He describes it. Then he says, but what is the other thing? He literally will drag the teacher to every word asking, what is this? What is this? Explain to me this. He'll explain that. Then he'll say, okay, well, what is that? Inside the answer, what is that? That's why I said that this is a very special text. Whatever question you are about to ask, there is a very good chance, 9 out of 10 chance, that it's the next question coming. So when we said, oh, sadhana chatushtaya adhikari, what is this sadhana chatushtaya kim? That's the next verse. It says, sadhana chatushtaya kim. What is this sadhana chatushtaya? Kim in Sanskrit is, what is it? Kim. So next time you meet somebody from Korea, Mr. Kim, what are you going to do? Kim? Kim? Where Kim? What are you? The whole country has got a Kim standing in front of it. Almost. Not all of them. Some of them are Park also. But every time I meet Mr. Kim, I'm like, sadhana chatushtaya Kim. It's just a private joke in my head. I don't tell it to you. Don't tell
There's a
them.
couple of memes on this as well.
Huh? They're not
A couple of Sanskrit memes on this.
Sadhana chatushtaya kim. So I like the beauty of this text is that nothing will be left untold. The student will drag everything up out of the teacher's mouth. He says, nitya anitya vastu vivekah iham utrartha phal bhoga viragah sham adi shatak sampattihi mumukshutvam cha iti. These are the 4 sadhana chatushtaya. So the revealed is now, what is the 4 sadhanas? The first one is nitya anitya vastu viveka. We talked about that just a moment ago. What is tattva viveka? The ability to discriminate between that which is real and that which is not real. Here described as nitya and anitya. That which can never be denied is nitya vastu. That which can be denied becomes the anitya vastu. And the viveka between this satyam and mithya is viveka. And that Swamiji, whose name is Vivekananda, he's been given a very beautiful name. Very beautiful and very appropriate name. You know how well the teachers used to know their students, right? Vivekananda is not a name he took by himself. You know, usually the teacher will bless you with a name. So sometimes you will meet some Swamiji and they will have some name. And if you look at their names are always very nice. They're very, very nice names. Sarva Priyananda. And there was something in that student that led the teacher to say, this is the appropriate name to be given to this particular student. Dayananda. Merciful teacher who will patiently listen to your questions and always answer them without becoming impatient, without losing patience. I'll always listen carefully. In spite, no matter how simple the question is, they'll take the time to answer it. So the teachers get to pick the names for their students when they take sannyasa. And they pick some really gorgeous names. I always enjoy when I read about some Swamiji, I always look at their names and it's always reveals a little bit about their. So this was Vivekananda. Nitya anitya vistu vivekaha. I'll complete this and then I'll go back to the question, what is moksha? Iham utra artha phalabhoga viragaha. It's a whole phrase. So the answer to the sadhana chatushtaya are 4. This is number 1. This is number 2. Iham is here. Utra is after here. Hereafter. translated into English as here and hereafter. Iham utrartha phal bhog, the enjoyment of the results. Viraga. We'll have to unpack the word viraga. It's very loaded. This is a simple translation to what the word vairagyam means. But the student is literally going to ask, Vairagya kaha, what is this vairagya? Please explain it to me. And we'll talk about it as well. Now, this is a little bit of a cheat because number 3 has 6 parts to it, A, B, C, D, E. Sadhana Chatusha, there were supposed to be 4, but 3 ke andar se 6 aur nikli. So he calls it Sham Adi Shatak Sampatti, 6-fold Sampatti. Yes, Sampanna was somebody who is endowed with, who is blessed with, you could say. They are so Sampatti. Again, these are, what is a Sampatti? It is something you have. Something you have that you can give. Not only is it something you have, it is also something you can give. You can show. It's not just enough to have the, it's not enough to just have shama. Shama is a certain amount of mental satisfaction. A mental state is shama. It's the ability to let go of your desires. Not only do you have it, you exercise it. I guess that's very important, and that's why the ancients use the word sampattihi. What is the most important aspect of money, of wealth? The most important aspect of wealth is that it changes hands. It changes hands. That's what makes it wealth. If it does not change hands, it is not wealth. This is a little bit difficult to understand or appreciate. But if it just sits in your coffers, if it just sits there, it does nothing. And when it does nothing, it just remains as potential energy. Wealth is supposed to be kinetic energy. Why? Because it has to be distributed in the society. The only way it can be distributed in the society is somebody doesn't hoard it. If somebody starts hoarding it, then the society will be bereft of that wealth. That's why dhanam, charity, has got a very high place in society as well. Because sampattihi is not only the thing that you have, but it is also the thing you share with the world. So sham adi shatak sampattihi. So shama, dhamma, titiksha, it will come out. 6 more will come out of that. They are qualities or practices. Things that you practice and you eventually have some mastery over them, some control over being able to exercise them. And the 4th one is back to where we were. Mumukshutvam cha eti. Now back to verse 1, Mumukshunam hitarthaya. The 2nd word says moksha sadhana bhutam. And then the 4th one said sadhana chatushtakim. That mumukshu word keeps coming back. Mumukshutvam. Eventually the student will ask, what is this mumukshu? Please explain it to me. So all of these questions. So the way Tattva Bodha is structured throughout the text, actually this verse, this original verse, which has 1, 2, 3, 4, will go on for a very long time. Because the student will next ask, what is Sat Nitya Nitya Vastu Viveka? The teacher will explain. Then he'll ask a question about one of the words in there. What is that? And then that will continue for a little while. So we will be on this verse, actually in the text for a long time. And that sets the tone for the document. It sets the tone for the text, which is an inquisitive text. It's a text of curiosity. It is a text of understanding. It is a text where discussion and question and answers are extremely important because we want to understand this stuff. With the understanding. So I guess one thing, so Shraddha is coming. One of the sampattis is going to be Shraddha. And we're going to talk about what is this Shraddha? Is it faith? Is it belief? What is it? And the answer is going to be that what we're talking about in terms of Shraddha is the ability to understand that you cannot drink all of this in one night, in one day. And it'll take a moment. You will not be able to drink the ocean in one day. You'll take it one glass at a time with the understanding that there is more coming. So for example, while I'm answering the question, or while the text is answering the question of Nitya Anitya Vastu Vivekaha, you can get impatient and say, okay, but what is that? Okay, but what is Himutrartha Phalbhogire? It's coming. It's coming. So the patience to study the text till the very end is important. That is Shraddha. Shraddha is best described as the attitude of a student who is discovering or learning something. The student neither abandons the effort, nor does the student become impatient with the effort. There's something very special, very, very special about the attitude of a student. It is far more difficult to have than the attitude of a teacher. And you have to have the ability to switch from student to teacher and teacher to student attitude at the drop of a hat. Because there's something very special about the attitude of a student. The student is the one who can receive information, can understand it, interpret it, investigate it, understand it, assimilate it, and then distribute it. It's only at the last stage that the student becomes the teacher. And this attitude of a student, we'll talk about it quite a bit. When we will talk about Shraddha, that's what we will talk about. It's not the act of belief. Does the student believe that the book is always right? Yeah, yes and no. Depends on the author, right? Depends on the author to a certain extent. And even there, just because the book is right doesn't mean that the student understands it. The student will spend effort to understand what is being talked about, and they'll have some very difficult questions. If they're really truly trying to understand it, they may have some very difficult questions for the book and or for the material being presented, and the student will pose their question and wait for an answer. There's something very amazing about a student. You're all students, which makes it so easy for you to have this attitude. When you graduate and get out of the university and go into the profession, you will someday you might see this, that attitude of the student gets lost somewhere. You lose it. Not because you threw it away or anything like that. It's just something that recedes to the background. And then over time, it gets covered with a crust of ahankara. That's the only way to describe it. That's one thing very special about a student. The student has the ability to suspend ahankara for 5 minutes because they're trying to understand something. You will find it very interesting that you can either understand something or you can have ahankara about it. You can't do both. And the student has the ability to suspend that for a few minutes while they're trying to understand something, investigate it from different directions. There's no ahankara in that. They're just thinking. They're using their mind and all their faculties to understand something. That attitude of the student gets lost. To me, that is perhaps one of the most important things that one needs to approach any prakarana grantha or any study with, is the attitude of a student. Once upon a time, I'm going to tell you a story. Once upon a time, there was a king in a kingdom, and he wanted to know Zen. He had heard that there was a very famous master of Zen Buddhism, and he wanted to learn from this master what is Zen. He wanted to learn from this master what was being taught. So he goes to the master. The king, instead of inviting the master, goes to the master to learn. And the master invites him into the house every day, and no worries, the master sits down, has a nice conversation with him, but he never answers the question of what is Zen. He does not. He talks to him about the weather, he talks to him about the kingdom, he talks to him about people's problems, but he never answers the question. To the point where the king at one point gets frustrated and asks him, why are you not answering my question? To which, he had invited, the Japanese have a very fantastic tea ritual, right? Where you sit down and you pour tea. Very nicely done. The master keeps pouring tea into the cup of the king, to the point where the tea is overflowing and falling on the ground. So the king says, what's going on here? Why are you insulting me like that? He says, it's not that. I cannot pour tea in a cup that is already full. I cannot pour tea in a cup that is already full. Bring me an empty cup and I will talk to you about it. He was talking about the attitude of the student. When that is missing, it's very difficult to transmit the knowledge that is being talked about. There's something very special about the attitude of a student. They have the ability to suspend ahankara. They have the ability to suspend disbelief, belief, all of that in the process of trying to understand something. When we get to the topic of Shraddha, we'll talk about this again. When the Hindus say, we hope that you have Shraddha, that's what they mean. We hope that you approach it as with the attitude of a student. Once you approach it with the attitude of a student, that's all that was ever asked of you, because the rest of the knowledge is in the document that we can talk about. So then we've gone through 3 verses of the Tattva Bodha, and we seem to be running into a question that is kind of overarchingly connected to the subject matter. What is the discussion of moksha? So many questions in our head, right? All these topics have come up. Now we've got to ask the question, what is moksha? And I want you to tell me the answer. What do you think is meant by the word moksha? And I will make notes, so I'll write them down so that we'll collect all our collective thoughts on what we think moksha is, and then we'll talk about what it potentially is.
I think becoming liberated from the cycle of birth and death.
What else? Everybody is going to have to give me a definition.
Freedom.
Yeah, it's not a passive class. This is your quiz. You
Is
have to answer. There are no wrong answers.
Is moksha and swarg different? They're same.
No, you answer the question. What do you think the word moksha means? I'll write
The
it down.
good place. The good place where you go.
Oh, I have seen the good place.
Oh, you have seen the good place and bad place? There's this TV series.
I've seen some of it. I got bored with it after a couple of it, maybe after half the season, but I enjoyed it.
I loved it. Like such a good series. It's fictional and very interesting.
The good place. All right, I got you.
Yeah.
Everybody's going to have to speak. This is a full participation class, and there are no wrong answers.
Yeah.
I would go with same. I think it's liberation, basically getting rid of your the past karma and like getting rid of the samskaras that have been imprinted on your mind. Or yeah, getting over the vrittis. So
Got it. If you haven't spoken yet, you already know who you are. You're waiting for your answers.
If I need to add to the already given definitions of liberation and freedom, then I would probably say it's a state where you don't have any desire.
What is your name?
My name is Sarayu.
Sorry, okay. I haven't met you before. I think I've not seen you in the classes. So I didn't do
Yeah.
introductions today, so we'll do it at the end. You
Okay.
can tell us about yourself at that point.
Sure.
Jairamji, you're left. Meghna signed off. She left. Like, I don't want to do this. She took moksha from the class.
Mm. Yes, Amit, so one thing that comes to my mind when I hear this word moksha, that awareness that deho naham, jivo naham, pratyeka birna brahmaivoham, suddhoham, buddhoham, muktoham, sivoham. So
How
that,
should I write that down?
in a sense, our ability to see in the eternal light, or in the light of Amara Jyoti, not under this light.
So it's only my mom left now. Pushpa is my mom, Meghna is my wife. Meghna left. She was like, no, I don't want to do this anymore. She took moksha. She's saying, I took moksha. Probably my mom is searching for the mute button to press. But anyways, we have got enough to go on here. So I made some notes while I was on the flight about what are the answers I was expecting to get. Let's see if we got all of them. Escape from the cycle of birth and death. That was the first one I wrote down. We got that. End of karma phala. All bijas of actions becoming destroyed. Did we get that? Yeah, getting rid of past karma. Getting rid of samskara. We got that. This one, end of all desires. We got that. So that's also on the list. There are a couple of them that we did not get. Let me see if you have heard of these before or not. The end of all sorrow. Only happiness, bliss, satisfaction, one could say. Maybe somebody will say that is the meaning of the word moksha for them. Another one that is very common, if we had a bigger class, we would have heard this one too. Having a direct one-on-one personal relationship with God. Yeah, that's very common, right? One of the biggest things that people want from this sadhana, this investigation, is to have a closer, direct, one-on-one relationship with Bhagwan, with Ishvara, whatever conception of Bhagwan there is.
I think it may also have like it may also refer to like true realization of who we are.
Yeah, okay, I'll add that too. Sometimes having a communion or congregation of devotees in the presence of God. And not only to have a direct relationship, but there's an entire congregation, a communion of, you might have come across this understanding, or you might have heard about it, where, they'll say, we want to be in this place where we are all having a strong relationship with Bhagwan, and all of us are friends and companions, eternal companions and consorts of Ishvara. That's one definitely. Another one is infinite love of God. Definitely one that I would have come across on a bigger scale, that these are some of the things that motivate people to think about it.
So the second last point, communion one, it's kind of that thought, right? Where you say that everyone has that Ishwar Ansha Is it about that everyone has that Ishwaransha, and finally when you get moksha, you get united with that supreme soul?
Absolutely. Yeah, something like that. Something like that. And these are very real. These are very real understandings of the word moksha. The first one, and in a way, some of these are more common and well known through various sources of media and development and so on. And some of these are lesser known, right? But for example, becoming liberated from the cycle of birth is very well known. This is, and in fact, I had exactly the same words down. Somehow they have managed to put the same words out. Oh, my mom sent something. Knowing the desire, but not attached to the desire. Yes, it's probably the same. Don't have desire. So she gave the definition in the chat. Okay. These are very particular definitions of moksha. Is this what this text is going to talk about? That becomes the question. And in order to understand that, what we're going to have to do is we're going to have to unpack the meaning of each of these carefully. What is meant by liberation from the cycle of birth and death? Do you find yourself trapped in a cycle of birth and death right now? No, not theoretically. Do you feel right now that you are trapped in a cycle of birth and death?
No.
Exactly. Right? And it's very interesting. Thank you for answering truthfully, because we need a truthful answer here. We are at a stage in our life. I'm old. You guys are young. Some of you are younger. Some of you are, reasonably aged. When was the last time a young person felt that they were trapped in the cycle of birth and death? It's not very common. Not generally our experience, for that matter.
Why do you say young person?
So we'll talk about that. We'll talk about it in just a moment as well. Mm-hmm. Because what is meant by the cycle of birth and death, do you know what that is? You haven't yet come across the cycle of birth and death, have you? Why would you need to? I mean, the question becomes, okay, fine, I want to get liberation from the cycle of birth and death. I could ask you, do you know what that is? The cycle of birth and death? You'll say, yes, when a person dies, they get reborn into this world. Don't you want that? Do you not like being a human being or something? I guess I could ask, right? Do you like being a human being? Would you rather not be a human being? Or put it differently, would you much rather be a superhuman being? And the answer will be yes. Now. Do you want to be Thor? Or do you want to be Spider-Man? Oh yeah, now we're talking. Now we're talking. Yes, I don't want to be a human being. I want to be a superhuman being. Okay, fine. Imagine that the whole world is full of superhumans. No, the Spider-Man will say, oh, I'm so small. I only just create these webs from my hands. And look at that guy, Thor. He can fly and he has lightning coming out of his everywhere and whatnot. I want to be like him. Right? The question becomes, do you want to be a human being or do you not want to be a human? The answer is, well, what is a human being, first of all? Let's talk about that. What does it mean to be human? To be human means you have relationships with your parents. Do you want freedom from that relationship? Human being means you have relationships with your friends. You have relationships with your significant others. If you have children, you have relationships with your children. Do you want freedom from that? No. Don't you laugh when you come across a good joke? Do you want freedom from humor? Do you want freedom from music? I'm sure we all have a favorite song. Do you want freedom from that? Do you want to never be able to respond to music? I'm sure you all have seen a good dance or probably done a dance or enjoyed, maybe even if you danced terribly, still enjoyed the dance. Do you want freedom from that? No. How about food?
I think the purpose of this moksha would be then to actually become one with them.
But I love this one. But I may want to become one with everything.
So because we realize that we are nothing but the true.
Careful, huh? If you become the vada, I might eat it. So while I'm using humor and sarcasm, I am really asking us to look deeply at what it is that you truly want. Do you want freedom from food? Well, if it's bad food, yeah, definitely. When my roommate's cooking, yeah, I want freedom from it. When my mom's cooking, I don't want freedom from that, right? Everybody wants freedom from the roommate's cooking. I remember being a roommate. If there are four, there's always that one person who's a terrible cook and insists on what's part of it is that person insists on a special occasion. Like, no, you don't cook. So the question becomes, what is a human being? What is it that you want freedom from? Or, put it differently, what are the goals of a human being? In Sanskrit, there's a word for it, purusharthas. What are purusharthas? You've heard of them before. There is dharma, there is artha, there is kama, and then there's moksha. It comes right back. It's like it won't go away, this thing. It just sticks around. It's like chewing gum in my hair. It won't go away. Deal with what this moksha means. Right? Because some of the things I talked about, music, dance, food, they're kama. Do you want freedom from your car? I can give you that. Just give me your car, you will be free of it. Right? You want freedom from your possessions? No. Well, if you are, you know, you know exactly with the joke that I'm trying to make, right? I can make you free of all of your burdens of wealth. You want to be? No. Why would you? So what are we talking about? And what is dharma in this context? You want to be freed from your obligation to speak the truth when asked? Do you want to be freed from your obligation to support people who deserve your support and need them? You want to be free from that responsibility? I guess it strikes at the heart of what is a human being? Is it our experience that I want to be freed from the cycle of birth and death? I don't experience the cycle of birth and death. It's just something I know, I've heard of. So then the question becomes, what is moksha? And why do I want it? Well, I understand the dharma, artha, kama. I want all of this, no doubt. I want artha for sure, even if it is crypto artha. No issues with crypto artha as well, right? May go up and down a little bit. What is artha? Security for the future. Taking care of, trying to have some means and methods to deal with what life may toss at you in the future, tomorrow. Taking care of tomorrow is artha. Taking care of today is kama. Because I want to be happy now, today. I want to be satisfied. Taking care of hereafter is dharma. But also it is here, and we'll talk about that as well. But in all of these definitions, I struggle to define what exactly is moksha. What is it? I'll give you one word. The word was actually present in the previous one. Moksha in Sanskrit refers to freedom. The question becomes freedom from what? Because, you know, as I said earlier, I can get you free from a lot of things that you like. I don't want to get rid of. Do you want to be free of the things that you like? No, nobody wants to get free of the things that they like. That would be unreasonable. If you were honest, you would say, no, it's okay. I'm okay with that. I don't need to be freed from my favorite coat or my favorite food. What do you want freedom from? The question becomes freedom from what?
maybe if that we are talking about freedom from incorrect conclusion about the reality.
Okay.
Freedom from ignorance.
You
Or-
guys are very high up there. Thoda niche aa jao. Come down to the human beings level. What does a human being want freedom from?
Sorrow.
Yes.
Suffering.
Suffering,
I think difficulties in life.
difficulties in life. Do you want to be free from challenges in life?
No.
That's the great thing, right? Everybody will say no, because when you look back at your life, how many challenges did you encounter and overcome them through effort and through a lot of blessing from God, through luck, through support, through your network of friends. Challenges, when you look at them in the past, they define in a way. They're helpful to creating your personality where it is today. If you had a life that was completely free of challenges, what kind of life would that be?
Yep.
Nobody wants freedom from the ability to do something, to accomplish something special, to do something difficult. But everybody wants freedom from suffering. Yeah, freedom from suffering means what? Freedom from sorrow means what? That's a tough question. Let's say that you fall down while playing soccer and you graze your knee. And there'll be pain associated with that, certainly. Is the pain systemic of the injury, or is the pain indicative of an injury? The pain associated with that injury is reminding you to take care of it. It's reminding you that this spot now needs healing. This spot now needs to be treated carefully. In the absence of pain, you wouldn't be able to know what you need to do. Pain is calling your attention to it, saying, hey, you need to deal with this. Put some ointment on it, try to treat it, go find a doctor if you are, make sure that you've got your tetanus shots are up and properly, you got the proper shots and everything. It's demanding your attention. Is pain suffering? No, pain is indicative. It's actually telling you what you need to pay attention to. So what do I want freedom from? And this is the question that will be at the heart of Vedanta. Moksha from what? Do you want moksha from dharma? Not really. Do you want moksha from artha? No. Do you want moksha from kama? No. What do you want moksha from? I want moksha from the things I don't like. How about that? Very simple answer. I want moksha from things I don't like. Simple as that, right? I didn't use, philosophy like I want moksha from ignorance. I want moksha from, lack of understanding. I don't want the things I don't like. Whatever that may be today. I just want to have things I like. I don't want to have things that I don't like. So I want moksha. I want freedom from things that I don't like. Oh boy. How do I deal with that answer? So, there's an interesting, you guys are such an evolved audience. It allows me to speak sometimes at a level that generally cannot talk in a public setting. Most of you understand what is a differential sensor. You've come across it one time or another. You know how a differential sensor works, right? It measures from the plus to the minus. You actually know what a sensor is. I can tell you what is a 100 degrees centigrade, and I can tell you what is minus 32 degrees centigrade, and you appreciate what that means. Because you know what is 0 degrees centigrade as well. What is unique about the human mind is that it is a differential sensor. It can measure differences, but it doesn't have a baseline correction. It's a floating differential sensor. What that means is that in order to feel pleasure, the sensor has to work both plus and minus. The only way I can experience pleasure is if I can experience pain. If I cannot experience pain, I cannot experience pleasure either. The only way I will find things I don't like are if I know the things that I do like. The difference between perfume, sugandha, and durgandha are available to me in my mind. In fact, you may have experienced this. If you enter into a room that has an agarbatti, you will say, yeah, the sugandha is very good. And the person who's sitting in that room will say, there is no sugandha here. His mind has baseline corrected the sense. He can no longer sense the same smell because he's sitting in the same spot from the beginning. His mind has corrected it. It's only he'll have to go out and come back in to say, oh yeah, this smelled like sandalwood. I don't want to experience the things that I don't like. Dude, with that goes out the things you like as well. They're two sides of the same coin. Now I don't know. Now I'm in a conundrum. This became very interesting. If the mind is indeed a differential sensor, which it is, then there are things that I like and there are things that I don't like. The things that I like, I call them ragas. And things that I don't like, I refer to them as dveshas. The mind is caught in between ragas and dveshas. If I get rid of the dveshas, I get rid of the ragas. Are you ready to get rid of the ragas as well? No. The ragas are the ones that add color to my life. That's what they are. They are the ones that make me feel human, feel happy. My experience of happiness is tied to my ragas. So I should become a viraga. We'll talk about viraga. It'll come a little bit later what that means. But freedom from what? If it's not freedom from the things I don't like, I want to get freedom from what is the worst feeling on the planet for a human being? Freedom from a sense of inadequacy. That's at the center of it all. I feel like I am a limited individual with limited means, limited powers, limited shaktis, with limited abilities to do things. And everywhere I look, there are people better than me. And there are some people that I'm better from, perhaps. Again, as I reminded you, the mind is a differential sensor. It can compare two things. It doesn't have a baseline. I find myself feeling small, inadequate, insignificant, not important to the world. That I would like to get freedom from. Now we're talking about something important. Now we're talking about something that is very central to being a human being. All these things are central to being a human being as well, but along with the package of being a human being, what exactly do you mean by suffering? What exactly do you mean by sorrow? Why did this happen to me? Why did this happen to me? Not that it happened to me. Why did this happen to me? I'm a good person. And why can't I fix it? This sense of inadequacy is what is referred to as jivatva. We'll talk about this more next time. Right now, I just wanted to leave you with this for the week to think about. Freedom from what? What do you want freedom from? As you go through the rest of your days in the week, there will be many things that you can look at and say, I want freedom from that. then if you look at it again, you'll realize what goes out with it. Because it goes, but along with it goes other things as well, because they're two sides of the same coin. And then there will be the moment when you will feel that I want to be freed from this sense of inadequacy, from this sense of feeling helpless, from the feeling of feeling small. That I would like to get rid of. That is the moksha that I want. Freedom from that. This is so different from the cycle of birth and death, right? This is so different. It's completely different from the cycle. Look at the list that we prepared on the previous page. The good place. Liberation, getting rid of. This is so much more here close to my heart today. What would make me satisfied today is what I'm looking for. We'll come back to this list also, and we'll go through them because we have to take a deeper dive into what is meant by Swarga. What is meant by having a direct one-on-one personal relationship with God. Do I not want that? Of course I do. Those are good things. Those are things I want. I don't want freedom from that. I want freedom from the sense of limitations. I want freedom from the sense of being a limited, small, insignificant being. If you can do that for me, then we want to talk. And that's what Vedanta wants to talk to you about. Vedanta wants to talk to you about you, the human being. He wants to talk to you about what is special about you and what is the part that seems to have gotten mixed up, so to speak. So with that, I think we've covered a lot of ground today. And we'll continue this conversation. Like I said earlier, too, we can't complete everything in one shot, but we'll get there one step at a time. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti.